Well, we talked about the emotion of going back into Dragon Stadium for the first time since 2006. Had to be a good moment.
We got to the stadium about 5:30 and got our players all ready to walk the field. And when we walked the field, all of our coaches walked the field with them. And so I spent a little time reminiscing. I got a chance to go over and say hello to some of my former assistants that are still on the Carroll staff. And that was about a 10-minute window. And after that was over with, I was locked in. It literally was the first time I'd been back in that stadium since 2007. Personally, I enjoyed the evening. Everything except that we came up 3 points short. Thought our kids played their tails off. To me, it just seemed like another football game.
50 kids had never played a down of varsity football. Describe really the feeling that you had after that first offensive series where they looked as sharp as they had been running the offense since they were in 7th grade.
There were a few times that reared its nice head during the game that it looked like we knew what we were doing. There was other times we didn't look like we knew what we were doing. But we do have a little bit of a blueprint now. We have a picture of what it ought to look like, what it feels like to get the tempo going and to put people on their heels with our tempo and stay on schedule. But that was a beautiful first drive. Picture perfect for our fans. That's kind of what the offense looks like. We got the ball in several different hands during that time. We're taking shots, we're taking dinks, we're running the football, we're snapping the ball about every 10 seconds. Unfortunately, we couldn't stay ahead of the chains, couldn't get out of our own way with some penalties, on early downs to keep that going.
The duplication process is, I know, what you're trying to do in preparation for Temple, who has their own set of issues. Forget the fact that all of the events surrounding Southlake Carroll and Westlake and you going back and all the relationships and all the stuff on the exterior, if you will. Now it's game week with another very good quarterback in Chad President, but a better running back in Jeff Carr, better running game, I should say, overall than what you saw with Southlake Carroll. Yes, they're excited. They got game one, but is this team very hungry to get to the next ball game, or are there still some folks lingering about wondering, where they fit into the puzzle after Carroll?
No, I think our players are absolutely ready to get to the next one. I told them, I said, let's drive home, let's get some rest. Can't wait to see y'all back on Monday. And they came really, really had a good Monday. We haven't really gotten to a football fall routine yet. We played on the road, we traveled, we stayed overnight, we've had Labor Day, but they've been very resilient, in handling what could be distractions. And that's one of the things, our players, we took 72 of them to a hotel. They traveled well. They acted right. They know with me, I'll send off a vibe. It's kind of, we can let our hair down a little bit, and then boom, it's time. They're starting to learn when it's time to put childish things away and get to business, and I like that. Our leaders did a great job, but they're definitely ready. I mean, and I think one of the nice things is that this bunch has competed against Temple.
I think when you look at what they were able to do last year and being resilient last year and not getting out of control. Obviously, it's a new personnel on offense, but they were able to stay within themselves. Defensively, I know that what we saw against Carroll is no doubt what's to come. You got to be proud of Tony Salazar and, of course, the kids, the way they were able to utilize the game plan and attack the quarterback. But it was what you talked about last week that caught my attention. Not attack the quarterback out of control, forcing Ryan Agnew to do things that he didn't want to do, run before he wanted to, throw before he wanted to, forced him into making mistakes. And with Chad President, he made mistakes last week. He's made mistakes before, but let's not beat around the bush. He's a very good quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely. Chad President, a lot of respect for him. Obviously, he missed 7, 8, 9 games last year with the knee injuries back. He's moving well. We have to all remember it was his first game back, the first game against Round Rock. He kind of sprayed the ball around a little bit. It was a little inaccurate, but man, can he run. And that's the thing that we've got to stop with him. We've got to stop the run. Jeff Carr is a fabulous runner. He probably is our most concern. The one thing that we've got to improve on defensively, I thought we tackled good, not great against Carroll. We would have been on the great side if we had have come under control a few more times against Agnew. He got a 66-yard run against us when it should have been a 4-yard loss. That's where we've got, for elusive athletes like Carr, like President, we've got to come to balance, not just try for that knockout shot and come to balance and make sure we make a good solid tackle. And that's going to be real key. And then I thought our summer conditioning really, really showed up well. Our players did not have any problems with cramps. Our players did not really have any problems with what looked like over fatigue. I'd like to think that our summer conditioning program was akin to that, and I'd like to think the way we're practicing, we're not subjecting them to 105 degrees every day. I think that I think that's something that we're on to that may really help us out down the stretch.
You talk about offense, you talk about defense. I'd like to concentrate on what you talked about last week because it showed up again on Friday night, the execution on special teams. You mentioned a couple guys before we started this interview. Manolo Gonzalez shot off the page for me because I pay attention to field position, especially with high-powered high-powered offense. Talk a little bit about Manolo's effort.
A lot of confidence, him and himself most importantly, but all of us, you never know how someone, that's the first night out. Again, it was his first time to play. I hope that in the future we don't ask Manolo to punt that many times. I personally, from an offense standpoint, that's probably the most times that the team that I've coached has ever punted in a game. So I hope that we'll cut that down. But the reason he was our most productive, our special teams player of the game, is because we did. I think he punted 7 to 8 times, and he absolutely handled them all well. He had a couple of low snaps, didn't panic, got the ball launched. There in the third quarter, we could not get out of our own end. He kept just putting the ball back at least past midfield. He never had any bad shanks or anything like that, so I was really, really pleased with him.
You look at a pair that might be getting some chemistry. You saw it in the first drive. You saw it late with the second drive in the fourth quarter. Of course, Reed Klubnik and Sam Ehlinger really coming together as a unit, not only with the passing game, but also Sam using his ability to run the ball to set up the pass. And I thought that was key in that last drive. Let's talk a little bit about their relationship and some growing pains in their first varsity game.
I'll start with Sam. Again, you got a guy that's 15 years old. It's his first high school start in a playoff atmosphere. I mean, it was an electric atmosphere. I thought he, overall played really well. And the fun thing about him, he's not even anything to write home about yet. Fun thing for me as his coach is there's so much room for improvement. But he made some plays. He did some things that will be just the way he is. I thought he threw the deep ball exceptionally well. I thought his toughness was outstanding. I thought he was very resilient when he made mistakes. Probably I told him on Saturday night when we were watching the video, I said, listen, one of the best things you did was the first pick you threw, you didn't pout. You didn't come over and put your head down and everything like that. That was important to me. And that's part of it. As you touch it 100% of the time, you're going to make mistakes every once in a while. Reed is a guy that obviously those two competed for the quarterback spot. We knew whoever won it would be our starter, obviously, and whoever came in number 2 was going to be a starter somewhere else. And so we got, during the summertime, Reed stepped in and played some wide receiver when Sam was at quarterback, and Sam would step in and play a little bit. Sometimes people would be on vacation, so the quarterback needs to step in. They really had a nice chemistry during the summertime. So we feel like Reed Klubnik can be a very dynamic wide receiver, one that is very raw right now, has only played the position for 1 game. The fun thing about Reed, he's only a junior, but he caught 11 balls, 118 yards. He's a 6'2", 175-pound guy that runs with more authority than you would think. He's tough to bring down out in space. He's doesn't weigh a whole lot, but he's pretty strong.
What we noticed is that he caught the ball in traffic. He caught the ball with a guy on his hip. He caught the ball wide open in space. He was able to utilize that athletic ability, but then the toughness comes in on the back end after he's made the grab. And I think that's what we saw more than anything else. The other thing that we saw was just execution on defense, what Matt Kelly was able to do. We talked a lot about Max Mangum because he was able to kind of run all over the place. If the other 3 guys are not doing their job, Max can't do what Max was able to do against South Lake Carroll. So talk about Matt Kelly, the guys on both sides of the corners, and their first start as varsity players as well.
Peterson and Reese had big-time assignments. Farrar, he's 6'4", 215 pounds. He's on every major college list. The other one is the best one they've got in Fentress. His older brother played for me when I was there. He's 6'2", 195 pounds. You could say they didn't have experience. They've had a lot of experience in their system. They locked them down pretty good. Matt Kelly got an interception early in the game. Tremendous execution of a part of the game plan that was put in by Coach Salazar, executed by our players. Perfect execution. And it had been worked on really since the middle of training camp.
What's the one thing you pull from South Lake Carroll that is of utmost importance as far as a positive nature?
There's no doubt there's a confidence level that I think we're a much more confident football team going into week 2 than we were week 1 because now we know. And the one thing it's my job and my staff's job is to make sure that our players understand this is who you are. Defense, this is who you are. And Carroll, and a lot of people have the issues for game 1. Carroll had some issues in the offensive line. We had some issues in the offensive line. But the Carroll players have been in their system for a long time. They've got dynamic skill position players, big physical. That's the first time in the history of that stadium that Carroll has ever been held under 300 yards total offense. And I point that out to our defense to say that's got to be who we are. That's got to be our calling card. Make sure that's the way we play. Now we're going to face different dynamics week in and week out. Temple arguably is better than the team we played last week. They may not be as polished in some places, but from a speed, talent, size, they're the number 3 5A team in the state of Texas.
If there were 3 keys to victory, I know taking care of the football football is the biggest one. You did that for the most part. Didn't put the ball on the ground. But other than protecting the football, in your home opener, going out on that field named after your late father-in-law, talk about that experience going into Friday.
Well, on offense, the number one thing is play great first down offense. To eliminate penalties, and that's going to have to be accurate with snaps, and then let us execute. If we play great first down offense, we'll stay on schedule. On defense, Jeff Carr and with Chad President and other elusive athletes, continue to do a great job tackling, do a better job of tackling, making sure that when we get a guy hemmed up, that we come to balance, put our screws on him, and we get him down on the ground. I think overall, defensively, we've got a chance to be pretty good. We just got to make sure we continue to tackle well. Special teams, it's just more of the same. I mean, I was so proud of our whole unit, special teams-wise. Of 7 goals that we look to get, we hit 5 of 7 on special teams. On defense, we hit 5 of 10, and on offense, we hit 2 of 10. Better consistency on offense. Special teams this early in the year, I mean, would I love a return for a touchdown? Would I love us to block a punt? Yeah, that'd be great, but just keep executing.
Coach, as always, thanks for the time. Good luck.
You bet. Thank you.